Welcome to Wealth Wednesdays. I'm Seth Ferguson. We go live every single Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about making money, building wealth, and accelerating your business. Today, we are talking about communication because that is exactly how you convey your value, what you know, how you can help people. And if you can't communicate, you can't land that investor, you can't land that deal, you can't land that customer, you can't land that prospect or future partner. So communication is where everything in business, whether it's your real estate investing business or another business, that's where everything starts, is effective communication and how we do that. So I'm really excited because I'm going to be joined by my friend Lisa in a little bit. Now, I first met Lisa a couple months ago, and I had her come out to my Moguls Mastermind event. So I'm not sure if you know, but I run a high-level real estate mastermind for thought leaders. So these are the top performers in the real estate space across all the different sectors. And these are the book authors, the podcasters, the online community managers, the YouTubers. And we all come from across Canada and the US. We meet up and we work on how we can improve our messaging, how we can better serve our audience, educate people, and make a bigger impact and just do good in the real estate community. So we had Lisa come out because we felt she would be a really big help in helping us really narrow down and communicate kind of what we know in our head and what we're looking to do and how we want to impact people and have a better impact with that. So I'm really excited to have Lisa coming on today in just a little bit because I wanted her to share everything she told us over that period of time when we were in Halifax with you right now online on this live stream. So super excited for that. But before we get it over to Lisa, I want to share some really mind-blowing stats about communication and how people are communicating today. So basically, if we go back to the 19th century, right, if you had an idea, you would be putting that idea into print, right? First, it was broadsheets, then it was pamphlets, and then it was newspapers. And then, so that was basically Dickens' time, right? Then we went to wireless, and then to radio, then we went to television. So basically, if you had an idea, like I said, back in Dickens' time, you would be writing it in print, right? Because at that point in time, a lot more people were literate. You know, that was the most effective way of getting your message out there. And then if you fast forward, let's say 80 years from Charles Dickens' time, the most effective way was radio. So if you had a message you wanted to get out there, you would go on the airwaves and you would get your message out there through the radio. And then, fast forward 30 years from there, then you had television. And now basically our collective attention has really shifted to the digital age. Everything is going online. So how we communicate has, it follows very specific stages. And now we're in that digital age where basically everything is online. So I've got some really interesting stats I want to share. One of the things I really enjoy doing for these live streams is actually researching and finding some stats that I didn't know. So I'm learning every time I do this. So let's hop over to the whiteboard here. So I didn't know this, but about 61% of the population right now has a social media account. That is startling. And when you look at the actual numbers, because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, percentage, it sounds pretty good. But when we actually break it down, in 2022, the number of social media accounts is expected to surpass 5 billion. 5 billion social media accounts. Now, when we go back in history, right? Did we have 5 billion people reading pamphlets and newspapers? No, right? The literacy wasn't up there. Did we have 5 billion people with radio sets? No. Did we have 5 billion people with television sets? No. The internet is changing everything, and this loops back into communication because how we communicate is changing. So we have to learn how we communicate in this digital landscape. Now, if we keep going on, you don't need to buy airtime on TV, right? That was expensive back in the day. You don't need a fancy wireless set to communicate and broadcast over the radio. All you need right now is your phone and an internet connection. And that internet connection is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and the phones are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. I don't need to rent an entire TV studio to run this live stream. I don't need to have multiple expensive cameras and 20 people in the studio. Like I know with my TV show on cable, we have a whole studio that we go to, and we have the fancy cameras and all that stuff, and there's a whole like producer with a production room and all that stuff. With this live stream, it's so much more accessible. So things are really changing, and that has really led into the amount of time people spend on social media. Now, I think this stat here is an underestimation just by watching people, but let me throw it to you anyway. So according to this, the average time spent using social media per day is 2 hours and 28 minutes. That is absolutely nuts. Think about that in the span of a workday, right? That's so much wasted potential that is being spent on social media, which is why I deleted Instagram off my phone, and I deleted the Facebook app off my phone for obvious reasons. So now when we look at the number of social media platforms used each month, the average by person is 7.2 platforms. I guess you could kind of think of the platforms like TV channels before there were like 1,000 TV channels. Now, I really want to break this down into monthly active users by platform, because this is absolutely startling. So when we look at Facebook, they have 2.9 billion with a B monthly active users. With YouTube, they're not too far behind. It's 2.5 billion. Now, obviously, these numbers are changing all the time. And then we have WhatsApp, and that's 2 billion. And then we have Instagram, and that's 1.5 billion. And then we have TikTok at 1 billion. Those are absolutely crazy numbers. Like I said before, you didn't have that with radio sets, televisions, newspaper readership. This is absolutely changing how messaging gets out there, and it's making messaging and communication a whole lot more accessible. So now let's break it down by time spent on the platform, right? So on Facebook, people are spending 33 minutes a day just on Facebook, right? And then we have TikTok. We have 32 minutes a day. And then we have Instagram, 29 minutes a day. And then we have, Twitter's on here. Twitter didn't make this list. Twitter is 31 minutes a day. And then Snapchat, which isn't on here because it was on the top 5 here, it was 28 minutes a day. So much time. And if you add up, 7.2 platforms, and I think that 2.5 hours was a gross underestimation. That is crazy usage in terms of social media platforms. Now, the dominant age for this, I'm sure you can probably guess, it's the 25 to 34 age group. And then following closely behind is 18 to 24-year-olds. So how accessible communication is just mind-blowing compared to 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 100, 200 years ago. So we have to adapt in how we communicate to better cut through the noise, because whenever something is more accessible, there's more competition. So how do we outcompete everybody else competing on these platforms? So I just want to read to you right now how people are using social media, the top 10 reasons, right? Number 1 is for news and current events. That was 36.5%. To find funny or entertaining content, so I'm sure that's cat videos, that's 35%. Fill up spare time, 34.5%. Stay in touch with friends' activities, 33%. Share photos and videos, 28%. Research products to buy, 27.5%. General networking, 26.8%. Because of friends, 25%. Share my opinion, 23.5%. And meet new people, 21%. So those are the top 10 reasons why that age demographic is heading on these platforms and spending so much time on there. So where there are people, where there are eyeballs, there is money. And, we talk about real estate deals and how much money is being pumped into real estate. Just wait until you see these numbers in terms of social media and ad spend. So right now, we'll take Facebook, because Facebook is the largest platform right now. So we have 2.7 million advertisers on Facebook right now. 2.7 million people advertising their services on Facebook. So this is why effective communication and how we do that, how we get our message across, how you get your ideas into somebody else's head, how you get your value into somebody else's head and make them understand. That is the secret sauce, because you are competing against 2.7 million advertisers on that platform. Now get this for revenue. So if we look at 2021 for Facebook again, because it's the largest platform, Facebook made $117 billion in revenue. That is absolutely staggering. Now get this. So that's more than every other social media platform combined, right? Instagram alone made more than LinkedIn, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Twitter combined. Now that might change with Elon taking over Twitter and charging some money for the blue check mark. But I'll say that again. So Facebook made $117 billion in revenue, and that was more than every other social media platform combined. And Instagram alone made more than LinkedIn, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Twitter combined. Mind-blowing. Now let's talk about the total ad spend worldwide on social media. This is nuts. So by the end of 2022, we're going to have $226 billion pumped into social media ad spend. $226 billion. This shows you the absolute drive and the push that this digital age, this digital communication is having. And then we have by the year 2027, this is nuts. So it's expected to be $384 billion a year in social media ad spend. That is craziness. So when we're thinking about communication, yeah, it's one thing to think really small, hey, I want to communicate with my prospects, my leads. But I think it's important to take a macro approach and really understand how communication is shifting and how we can better do that. Because if you're competing against just 2.7 million advertisers on Facebook alone, and you're competing in that sea of $226 billion in ad spend this year, and that sea of $384 billion in ad spend in 2027, you really have to level up how you communicate. And that's why I'm so passionate about thought leadership. That's why I created Moguls, to have thought leaders all come together, because we have to learn from each other and what's working, why is it working? If you have a YouTube channel, what are you doing? Can I apply that then to my book? Can I apply that to my podcast? Because there's so much noise out there. Like I said, the more accessible social media the internet becomes, the more watered down it gets, and the more you have to cut through the noise if you want to get to your prospect, if you want to get your message across. And that's exactly why Lisa's going to be hopping on in a little bit. So what we're going to do, I forgot to mention about the free t-shirt draw. So you can see right now I've got my Moguls in the Making t-shirt. Obviously, we still have the unit size matters. That was a big hit. So if you like and comment on this video today, Katie, who is behind the controls, will be picking the winner to receive a free t-shirt. We can give you your choice, whether it's the unit size matters with your apartment building and your 2 small houses at the base right there, or you can have your choice of the Mogul in the Making t-shirt, which I am modeling today. So we are giving away a free t-shirt. So just make sure you like and comment on this video to win a free t-shirt today. We'll mail it right out to your house, totally for free. It's on me, just as a thank you for supporting the channel. And then also, when you like and comment, we are doing a monthly draw for a free loaded elite ticket to the multifamily conference coming up. So let's take a break, and we'll have Lisa on right after. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Lisa, how is it going? Long time no see.
I know, it's great to see you. Well, in my little corner of the world, it is snowing.
Yeah, we had snow this morning too. So my little guy will be pretty pumped up for that. So
Yes, my
yeah,
dog will be.
yeah. So I was telling everybody before the break that we had you out in
Mhm.
Halifax a little
Right.
while ago, and you came to speak at the Moguls mastermind group that I run, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was a really important message to share with everybody on the live stream today, just because like communication is everything, and I really want to get into the
Sure.
values. I'm really excited to share mine and all that stuff. So thanks for coming on today.
Oh, my pleasure. I always love hanging out with you, Seth, because I always learn something. I love finding out about what's going on in your world. Because of course, my expertise is not real estate, but I do understand a little bit about how to sell it.
Yeah, we'll have to get you a T-shirt, a unit size matters T-shirt.
I
So
know. I'm gonna
those
have
are a
to
hit.
choose which one. I know I like them both.
Yeah. So okay, so let's start off. I found that your approach to values and how we
Mm,
communicate that, I thought that really changed on how I think about communicating and how we're doing things now. So I'm not sure if like you want to start with there and
sure.
then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I talked to your moguls about was that we have to move away from just thinking of our values as these airy fairy nice thoughts we have and we apply them to our philanthropy or being a good person over here, but that our main stuff is separate from it. We actually have to operationalize our values and embed them in everything that we do as a business owner and as a company, because that's how you're going to attract the people you want as investors, as buyers, and as your larger audience as you become that thought leader. That's how you quite frankly shift hearts, minds, and money to build the world you want to build.
Yeah, and it was, doing the values thing, it was always something that I kind of shied away from because it felt kind of hocus pocus kind of.
It's a
But
woo.
yeah. But like when you were running us through your workshop, it started clicking because I realized that, here's the thing. So I was at an event, the Wealth Hacker event that my friend Erwin Cito runs on the weekend.
Mhm, mhm.
And like it's funny because like his values, like you can see immediately that through everything he does, like his values come through whether he
Right,
knows it or not. And like I realized like what in your workshop that my values were already shining through even though I hadn't really identified them
sure.
in everything we do, because I think it was my four values are boldness, challenge, excellence, and legacy. So
Mhm.
so like now everything we're doing, like we want to be bold. That's why we have these bold T-shirts now with the apartments and the two little houses. Like we want
Right.
to really make a splash. So then, how does somebody start like assessing their values and really start that process?
Right. So the first thing you really have to do is you have to write them down. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't say, well, you could call me. But you should write them down and you should actually put some thought into it on what they are. And you know what? You can go Google values lists online. You can go grab Brene Brown's or somebody else's and look at words that we ascribe value to, like boldness or friendly, or you said legacy, or some people might say wealth, or I don't know, community. These are all words that we put value on. And look at a great big huge long list and circle the ones that just speak to you, right? So circle
Yeah.
the ones that speak to you, and I'm going to tell you now you got to take it to 4, right? Because you know what the next step is. I always tell people, I want you to put them in the order that you would use them in making a decision. So this is something that I wish I could take credit for, but I can't. It's Walt Disney. The Walt Disney World is the place where this first came into an idea. And so the example I always use is, so at Walt Disney World, their values are safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency, in that order. And it's in that order. So everybody who works at Walt Disney World, regardless if you are dressed up as Pluto or you are the CEO, when you have to make a decision, the first thing you consider is safety. Is everybody involved in this safe? Okay, well, that totally makes sense because this is an amusement park. The second piece is courteous. You're going to be courteous to whoever you're dealing with. Well, that makes sense because what is Walt Disney World? It's the happiest place on earth. Okay? So you're not going to be not a nice person, or the D word. I don't know if this is a family show. To the people you're dealing with. Then the third word is show. Again, it's Walt Disney. You're not going to break character. And then efficiency, you're going to do it nice and quickly so that the show can keep moving. That's Walt Disney putting their values to work. So if it's good enough for Walt Disney, I think it's good enough for the rest of us. And what I have found with clients over and over again when I work with them, and this is what you're discovering, is once you start thinking that way and then applying it to, okay, so what does that mean for my marketing? What does that mean for talking to investors? So you remember during our workshop, one of the moguls said one of their initial values was education because they want to educate people. But then when they stopped to think, did educate work properly for dealing with an investor? Oh God, no, that's kind of pretentious, kind of condescending. And so they settled on the word learning. But that's actually, they want, and learning, that's a different type of word. So there's also some beautiful subtleties that come out when you start to not only pick your values, put them in order, and then apply them to all of your relationships.
Yeah, and the one thing that really stuck out at me was like how diverse like everybody had a different, different values that they had selected. It was all over the place. Even though, on one hand there's a lot of similarity because like they're all thought leaders, they're all high level performers, but then on the other hand, like they are so different, and that was I was very surprised when that happened.
Right. And a different client base and a different market and a different relationship with their communities, right? Like, so one of the moguls, he was from a small town, right? And so his values were different because how he behaves and how he interacts in his community has a direct impact on his bottom line. Because in a smaller community, your reputation is known by everybody and it makes or breaks you. Yeah. But meanwhile, if you're working in Montreal or Toronto or Chicago or a larger center, sure, your reputation is important. Of course it is, but it's not at the same level as in a smaller community. So yeah, you're gonna have a different order of values.
Yeah. So once somebody has their values figured out, so like let's use me for an example, right?
Let's workshop you.
Okay, there we go. Let's go behind the under the hood. So we've got boldness, challenge, excellence, and legacy. Like, and that's the order because like boldness, like Katie knows this, like boldness, like that stood out to me like right away. So like now whenever we're trying to do something, it's like, okay, well, is it bold? Is it pushing? Is it like standing out? And then, okay, is it challenging? Is it challenging us and like how we think? Like, is it challenging us to go bigger? And then like, is excellence, like, are we doing it at the highest level? Are we putting like, it's like quality are we nailing it? And then it's legacy. Are we building a legacy not only for like us, but also for the people we're interacting with? That's kind of how we run through that.
And that's excellent. You gold star, Seth. You did. That's great because it's also about that two-way back and forth because you were just talking about social media. And so the way our world has changed, we are now working in a digital economy, and the digital world is our baseline infrastructure. And as I like to say, it works like a Pong game, right? Beep, boop, beep, boop. Like, so what you send out there comes back. So your values are also how you will go out into the world, and then how will you receive those values back? Because that also means, though, when you are projecting your values, you will attract people who are attracted to those values, and then they will bring those values back to you. So how do your customers, how does your audience, for instance, of the show, or who's going to come to the conference, how do they interpret boldness? How are they being bold? What kind of legacies are they building? Or when you're actually building and actually creating something. So how are you helping your community be bold, rise to excellence, face down challenges, and create a legacy?
Yeah.
So then that actually impacts what you build.
Yeah. No, it definitely does it. And it, like I was saying before, it totally changed how we look at things now. But okay, so I guess the question is, so once somebody, figures out, the idea behind the values and the decision-making matrix, how do they then communicate? So let's take social media for an example, right? Because that's where everybody is right now. How does somebody actually communicate their values and get it out there without sounding like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're not actually going to write a post saying, I am bold. Are you?
Yeah,
right?
that does not work for me.
Right. So I'm a former journalist. And so in the journalism world, we have this expression, show, don't tell. Right. So you're going to show through how you communicate, rather than telling. And so what that means is you're going to illustrate through examples. So then that's how you're going to put your values to work, because now the stories you're going to tell are going to clearly illustrate those values, right? So you're going to look to tell stories and position, like let's take the multifamily conference that's coming up in May, right? So the way you're going to position that in the marketplace is the boldness is obviously there. You might put an emphasis on like the challenges that your clientele are thinking about, right? So let's get together and really dig in on these challenges, and then the excellence of the speakers and the conversation to consider those challenges, and then the legacy that will leave behind is you're going to build a community of practice that meets this level of excellence that will then make people want to keep coming. So when you think, okay, that could be the frame through which we do the marketing and the larger conversations. So then what could you be writing on the social media channels that you prefer? So if LinkedIn is the professional one, so how could you be digging in a bit on those challenges and levels of excellence and legacy, and thinking about what do you want to leave behind? And so we had this conversation in October with all of your moguls, your land developers, you're building multi-unit apartments and condos. So that is a touch point in community conversations, right? How we are developing our communities, that's actually an issue people talk about. So how do you position yourself in that larger conversation so that people will look to you and say, yeah, I want you in my community, right?
Yeah.
How do you, so that's how you live those four values, and they actually then shift hearts, minds, and money in the way you want to.
Yeah, well, according to my son, boldness is extra fire on the stage for next year. So that's what he wanted. I think where a lot of people struggle is that content creation. They're like, okay, I've got my values, I kind of know the idea, but like, how do I really figure out like what's going to convey, let's say, boldness? So let's say I want to write a LinkedIn article. Like somebody's going to be like, how the hell do I like write a
Right.
bold article, right? So like, can we go into that a little bit?
Sure. So, how do you interpret the word bold? Tell me a little bit about why bold is your first word.
Yeah, but because I think it when I think of something bold, it's somebody who's like leading, different, cutting through.
Okay.
It's like the power to it too. Those are the
Mhm.
words that really come to mind when I think of boldness.
Okay. So so what kind of posts could you write that show that boldness? Well, you could start by entering conversations with a strong and bold point of view, right?
Yep.
So, you pick a side, right? You are emphatic in what you stand for, right? And that's very, very clear. So, as an example, you had Kevin O'Leary as one of your speakers at last year, right? So
Yep.
he's bold, right? There is no debate about what he stands for, on his opinion on different things. So, like, that's one way. Another way is to be very strong on new trends, right? So, which you already do, Seth. You're here telling people about where the market is going, where this sector is going. And so, to double down on that and be very, again, emphatic, this is what I see. This is what I suggest you do. So, that's a very bold statement. You're not doing, so see this and I see that. And so, we'll have to watch and see where this takes us, right? You're not doing that. You're saying, no, no, no. Look at this. Look where social media advertising spend is going.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get on this.
Yeah, we've got what was it? $384 billion in 2027 in
Mhm.
5 years' time. That's ridiculous.
So you are naturally bold. And so it's just that is your natural voice. And I think that's really, really important for your viewers to understand is your values are not going to feel weird when you choose them. They're going to feel natural because they're an extension of you.
Yeah, like the funny thing was, like when you had us looking through the sheet with all the different words, there must have been what 100 different words on that
Yeah.
page. Like
Mhm.
some words, I read them and I cringed because it
Right.
definitely wasn't me. And then other words, you were just kind of like, whatever. And then some like really punched out.
Right.
Um, so like, I guess uh, like having your value system, right? Being very clear on your values. Isn't it like more important to realize what you're not than rather what you are?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you know what you're not, it will reveal what you are. So it's just another way. So as you said, we looked at that page of like 100 words, and it was easier for you to know, no, 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 mm-mm, ah, no, right?
Yeah, that was
That
me.
was simple.
Yeah,
Because when I asked everybody on the first go around, just circle all the words that speak to you, right? Well, you didn't circle 100 words. You circled maybe 15. So, yeah, so the first, it's fair to say that first go round on a list of values, what you're actually doing is deciding what you aren't,
yeah.
and you're narrowing in. And then what is left is what you are.
Yeah, it's because, like for example, so next year in May, we've got Grant Cardone coming. And like,
Mhm.
if somebody, he was rated the Forbes #1 marketer of the year, like obviously he's made a big impact using social media. Well, one of the things I noticed, like when Grant first started, way, way, way back, if you can find that stuff, is he wasn't like everybody would, same with Kevin O'Leary, they're like polarizing figures, right? Like,
Right.
that there's a clear line in the sand, whether, you like them or you don't. And that's where the question really came from. Is it more important to realize what you're not through the values? Because I think if you're always trying to be, just vanilla, you're not going to attract those raving fans or really attract the people you really want to, because there's no differentiation. So like, I guess, how does somebody use the values then to make that line in the sand to now really attract those key fans and really repel the people who are not really a good fit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And there actually is a methodology in marketing that is actually almost like anti-marketing. You are actually actively repelling the people you don't want. So you can do that as straightforward as, this is for you if you're this, and it's not for you if you're this and this. It's that simple, that when you know who your values. So for instance, for you, you could say, this conference is for you if you're this and this. It is not for you if you're still thinking about getting into this industry, but not sure yet. So you're being kind, but you're taking the looky-loos out of the equation. You don't want the
Yeah.
looky-loos,
Well, that's the thing.
right?
Like, yeah.
But then I'd say you have to be okay with purposefully telling some people, I'm not for you.
Yeah, I think that's an important step as you're building a business, right? Because like I think everybody wants to help everybody, but you have to, you want to help everybody, but you have to realize you can't.
Right.
And I think just looking at business in general, like as soon as the looky-loos waste a lot of time, and they're likely not going to buy anything anyway, or if they do, they're going to be dissatisfied. So I think the sooner we can repel them and really attract the people who fit within our circle, your tribe, however you want to call it, the more efficient our advertising, marketing, and our sales process becomes.
Absolutely. And of course,
Yeah.
the other important thing about honing in on your values and then attracting people who are attracted to your values, who share your values. So you want to do that when the times are great, because there will be times when there's challenges ahead. And so you want the people who have come with you, particularly if we're talking investors, who will stand with you and so that you are united when you hit a bump in the road, right? So that's also really, really important, where your values, they're there to attract great people when times are great. And then they're also there as a great insulator for you when you come up against challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And then I guess, you've attracted people with the same values, so it's easier to have that back and forth communication and understanding, right? Because you're almost on
Right.
the same page to begin with.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And like I will emphasize, you want to attract residents and buyers who share your values, because then they'll maintain the properties as you want your properties maintained. They will respect the community rules that are both written and unwritten that form the community in that property.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess like your value set, and this is where I still struggle, right? It's taking your value system. On the surface, it sounds really good, but then you have to think about, okay, well, how do my values apply to each situation?
Right.
Like how do I apply that to residents? How do I apply that to investors? How do I apply that to students? How do I apply that to conference go? Like all the way through it, and that's a really hard exercise to do,
It
and
is.
I'm still not done. So
Well, and that's it's you're testing it out, right? Like, so how are you bold? What does bold mean in your relationship with staff? Well, that could mean that you're an encouraging employer for them to bring ideas to you, to be bold themselves in what they're thinking. But then you think, okay, like that sounds really good on paper. So, but then what does that do for your hiring process? Because what you then want are people who respect and understand what that means and aren't just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And every time you come into work, your employees are saying, how about this? How about this? How about this? And so it's unanchored, right? So you can see how it has this fabulous trickle down effect that just then flows through everything in terms of how you operate the business.
Yeah, 100%. And Katie's behind the controls, and Katie's bold, so that's why she's the best.
Katie is wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome. So how do you see? We got a couple minutes left. Like, how do you see values or how we communicate values changing, right? Because obviously the medium is changing, and we've got different platforms and everything. Do you see values becoming more important or less important? And do people really care about them? Will they care about them? Is it just going to be the dollar? Like, how do you see things going in the next, let's say, 5 years?
I think that our values are what will give our businesses their value. Because if you look at the conversation happening either online or in the news, or quite frankly, in our communities, the temperature is rising, right? People are getting angrier over things. They're becoming more divisive. They are wanting to move faster. Our values are the signal we send out into all of that noise so that we find our tribe, we find our community, and we can move forward. And we have to move forward together. So I think values are going to define the next 5 years. They've defined the previous 5 years, and it's been a mess, right?
Yes, it has.
So if we're going to do this properly in the next 5 years, then we have to be purposeful about those values.
Yeah. So communicating with all these people online starts with values then, right? Because if you don't have that, you don't have anything.
Values are not woo, they are wealth.
Yeah. I like that. Values are wealth. That's awesome. Well, Lisa, thanks so much for coming on. What's your website if somebody wants to get in touch?
It is wickedideas.ca. And of course, you can reach me on LinkedIn as Lisa Rablik. I am the easiest person to find on social media. I'm the only Lisa Rablik in the whole world. And Lisa at wickedideas.ca. So yeah, love to hear from people.
Yeah, awesome, Lisa. Like, it was you made a big impact in how we approach things. So I'm really glad we brought you into Halifax for the Moguls Mastermind, and I know everybody else found it really helpful too. So that was great. So thanks for sharing that with everybody today on the live stream.
And thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
See you later.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. So before we wrap up, I just want to put Katie has to pick a winner for the t-shirt draw. So Katie, do you want to put in the chat for me who's going to win the t-shirt? Katie says Lawrence is winning a t-shirt. So Lawrence, make sure you get in touch with us. We'll get your mailing address, and we need your t-shirt size and all that stuff. So just remember, if you like and comment this video, we do a free t-shirt draw every single day. And then we also have our monthly draw for a free loaded elite ticket for the multifamily conference. So make sure you like and comment, really helps out the channel. And it also gets you a free ticket potentially for the conference. So I will see you next Monday for Multifamily Monday. We go live every single Monday and Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until next time, happy investing.